I'm glad you came to live here, Cedric. It was the closest Alain had ever come to professing friendship for him. Cedric smiled, although he couldn't honestly say the same in return. I don't know why I was the one chosen, he said instead. Alain rolled onto one side and propped his head on his hand. You don't? Cedric shook his head. One corner of Alain's mouth lifted in what was almost a grin, although it was given an edge by the way the light of the fire flickered over his face. I asked for you. Seeing the astonishment on Cedric's face, he laughed shortly, pulling back to a sitting position and hugging his knees to his chest. Nat and I were visiting the city about half a year before you came here when I saw you. Nat had been his previous companion before he died in a riding accident. You were there with what looked like your father and an older brother. I watched you for the longest time before you left. Cedric shook his head again, mystified. Why? You really don't know. Alain reached out and ruffled the hair on top of Cedric's head, sliding his fingers through the thick sable strands. Cedric jerked his head away and tried to press it flat again, grinning. Alain's next words, however, froze the grin on his face. You're pretty to look at. I am not. Cedric felt his cheeks heat and stared, positive he was being teased. No one had ever told him he was pretty before, especially not another boy. Alain's smile was crooked. Sure you are. All that dark, dark hair and those sensuous black eyes. My eyes are not black, they're brown. Realizing what he'd objected to first, Cedric flushed even hotter and added, and they're certainly not sensuous. Alain fell flat on his back and laughed, rubbing at his face with both hands. Okay, so they're not dark and they're not sensuous. Are you happy now? Despite his embarrassment, Cedric couldn't help but smile at the sound of the other boy's laughter. Honest laughter, without its usual cynical edge. It had been worth it to be teased if it prompted this result. Yes, thank you. Alain snorted. You're welcome. Still lying flat on the ground with his knees bent in front of him, he folded his hands over his stomach and asked, Does it bother you when I say I think you're pretty? His eyes glinted in the light from the fire.